Are you ready to let go of perfectionism this year? Because seriously, perfectionism holds you back. It holds you back from your best performance. It holds you back from joy. It holds you back from happiness. Perfectionism is like an obstacle that's in your way. And it's really weird because it kind of seems like it's helping you. It's helping you succeed, or it's helping you be accepted, or it's helping you get to your goals. But every time somebody is struggling with perfectionism, it is an obstacle in their way to get to their goals. Because if you have to write something perfect, you rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it. And it's never going to be perfect because perfect is undefinable. Perfect is undefinable. You'll never meet it. So you'll have to keep trying forever. Eventually, hopefully, you stop. But sometimes it's hours and hours and hours. And if you're a perfectionist or you're a recovering perfectionist who's always working on it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Perfectionism takes a long time. And during the long time that it takes, you are beating yourself up, talking negatively about yourself, telling yourself that you're not good enough or you can't do it or you have to work harder. You're burning yourself out. You're exhausted. You don't have time for fun. It just gets in the way. And I want to tell you that perfectionism is not your fault, right? We've been encultured in Western culture to hold ourselves to standards of perfectionism, but it's all BS. It's all like a house of cards, right? We think that there's these expectations, these cultural or societal expectations that we have to be smart and pretty and young and perfect and cool and the best at everything, right? Because you look at everybody else and it seems like everybody else is so great. And we're constantly comparing ourselves. Now, to understand why this is happening, it's important to look outside of yourself because this is not coming from you. This is coming from the fact that we as humans have this innate need to belong because we're social beings. Humans couldn't live alone in the world. So as we were evolving, we knew that we needed each other. We needed a group of people, a community in order to survive in the wild world that we had. And so we needed to belong. So that's still in there biologically. We're in smaller and smaller households, which is actually detrimental to our mental health. But because we're social beings and we want that sense of belonging is so important to us, but we're more and more isolated in the way that we're living this modern world. And so that's increasing our striving for perfectionism because we're really so scared of being left out. You know how bad it feels when you're left out? It feels bad mentally, it feels bad emotionally when you're left out. It feels like a rejection. But to like your biology, it feels like you can die. And that's why we are always trying to strive for perfectionism because we think these societal standards are standards by which we have to meet them or else we're kicked out of the group. We're not accepted. We're not enough to be included. And so if we think about that logically or cognitively, we're like, okay, we don't have to put that kind of pressure on ourselves anymore, but it's innate in there. And so we have to understand it so that we could override it because we don't need that kind of protection like we did during hunter gatherer times, right? We don't need that group in that same way. We want the group because emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, we still want the group. We are still social beings. We're so isolated in this world. We're in smaller and smaller households. We are separated a lot of the time, maybe like in our own rooms on our own devices. And that's really not helping us too much. You know, we used to live in multi-generational groups, and people who still live in multi-generational families, their mental health the studies say their mental health is a lot better when you have a lot of people in the house and from different generations, because there's more people to problem solve. There's more people to get out of your head and into their head. There's not much room for perfectionism when everyone's trying to get along and help each other. There's not much room for that. For somebody that's like an only child or they're not around other people a lot, perfectionism could get in there because really it's a negative thought. It's an anxiety. It's a worry, right? Perfectionism is a negative thought, and negative thoughts expand when you're isolated. So we want to let go of perfectionism because it's not going to help you this school year. If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a student, whatever you do, if you're a counselor, whatever you do, you're doing something. And because when you were younger, you lived by the academic calendar, September means something to you. And it means resetting goals. It means kind of a new, that the season of summer is over and things kind of shift. And usually we have new plans. It's almost like a new year. I think of the beginning of September is a bit of a new year. I love to do it almost every season. Think of it as a new year where you could reset your intentions. You could reset whatever goals you have for exercise or whatever goals you have for self-care, whatever goals you have to decrease these high expectations, these unrealistic expectations that we have on ourselves that says you have to be enough, good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, tall enough, cool enough, do everything enough. Right? Be the best friend, be the most everything, right? We have to be the best at everything because if we don't, we think that somebody's going to find us out, that we're an imposter and we're not good enough to belong. If we thought about it like clearly like that, we'd be like, this is so stupid. This is so stupid. But it's in there in our beliefs, and we just kind of keep going and thinking that we have to do this or else it's not okay if we're not. It's like the anxiety, it's an anxiety when it's really vague. When it's vague and it's like, you have to do this or else. Then that's a little bit of a hooked thought. It doesn't have much meaning. It's quite thin, but man, we believe it because it's like, we don't want that or else to come. You have to be perfect or else. You have to meet the standard or else. And because we don't know exactly where the standard is, like exactly what cool enough looks like, totally undefinable. So we try to push even higher. We try to push ourselves to be beyond what we could imagine it could be, so that we meet that goal, so that we are successful in that standard, that expectation. It's BS. First of all, it's undefinable. So we try to be perfect and we try to go beyond perfect because we don't really know what perfect is because we can't define perfect. It's nonsense. Perfect is not a real thing. It's an impossibility. And trying to strive for it, you're giving up. Sometimes people give up relationships. They give up so much joy. They give up their performance because they're so worried about not being good enough or not doing enough, that anxiety gets in the way and they do worse on their test or they do worse performing, or, we get in our own way when we're anxious like that. And so we think that if we let go of perfectionism, that means we don't perform as well, and we have to accept ourselves not performing as well. And I'm not trying to do this because I want you to perform better. That's the what's that called? Like that's a side effect. When you let go of perfectionism, you perform better, and that's a side effect. That's not the goal, right? You're not letting go of perfectionism because you want to perform better, because I think that might be perfectionism trying to out trick you and trying to really get in there again. But you want to let go of perfectionism, have realistic goals, realistic expectations for yourself. Redefine what success is. Redefine what your goals are. Be clear about them and intentional, because when you're not intentional, you're unintentionally striving for perfect. It just it makes you anxious. It makes you depressed. It makes you want to isolate yourself, which makes all of that worse. So hopefully I've convinced you already to work hard at letting go of perfectionism. And so let's go over a couple of ideas I have for you. I'm gonna just check if there's any um any chat. You could if you're on YouTube, you could put a chat in, that's what I'm saying. Put a comment in and I could see it live if you want to. If you're watching this recording, I'm on live every Monday at 8 p.m. So sometimes I have guests or my daughter's on with me, and sometimes I fly solo like tonight. And so I'm really excited to always spend this time with my community on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. All right. So let's look at, so first and foremost, when you're trying to let go of perfectionism, you want to recognize the downside of perfectionism. Because right now, if you're holding and grasping on perfectionism, you probably think it's your friend and it helps you. And hopefully by now I've convinced you that it doesn't. So that's number one, recognize the downside. Number two, I want you to be clear about your expectations and bring them down to realistic expectations. What do you expect yourself? You're not going to be perfect. You're human. You make mistakes. You learn from them. It's great. Mistakes are great. They don't usually hurt. Sometimes if people been in abusive relationships, they're really afraid to make mistakes because there was danger in the past when they made mistakes. Their abuser might attack them in those times. And so that might become something that's an issue. There's help. You could heal from that kind of trauma. You could work with somebody like me or somebody in your own context that could help you release those needs. Those are real survivor skills that you put into place. And sometimes later, if the abuser's not there anymore, you don't necessarily need them. And so they could retire, but you might need some help with that because you just, it brings up so much if you've had that experience. All right. So, yeah, redefine what enough is. You're enough just as you are. Redefine what enough is. Actually, you're so much better than you see yourself as. You're so much better than perfectionism and anxiety and worry see you as. You're amazing. You're functioning. You're doing all this stuff that you don't really see in yourself because you're so busy seeing all the deficits that you have. And so we want to let that go. Stop seeing the deficits and start seeing your skills because that's going to change everything for you. All right. Next is celebrate your wins. That goes with what I just said. If you are constantly thinking of all the things that you didn't get to yet, what do you think that's going to do to you mentally? If you're constantly thinking of all the things that you don't get to and never see the things that you do, you will always feel inadequate. You'll always feel less than, you'll always feel behind. It is so stressful and it's exhausting. It zaps your energy, and so you don't have energy to do anything else. But if you celebrate what you've done, even if it's little, even if it's emptying the dishwasher, even if it's little, if you celebrate the things that you did, sorry, it invigorates you. It gives you energy that you could put towards the next task. And then inertia, one task after another, all motivating the next one and the next one, and starting to feel good about yourself, starting to feel motivated and skilled. You feel happy. You feel happy with yourself. You feel your confidence goes up. You want to be around people. And that's what humans need. That's what humans are longing for inside of themselves. So celebrate your wins. Okay. Next is externalized perfectionism. We think that's something that we believe is true that we have to do for ourselves. So we're kind of externalizing it. It's like a label on us. We need to be perfect or else. But if you think about it, this goes with that, recognize the downside of it. When you think about it as something that is hurting you, that's something that's pressuring you, that's something that's making you feel bad, you're taking it out of your identity and you're seeing it as a concept that is not good for you. And from that little bit of a distance, like taking it out of your identity, it really helps you deny it or decline its influence in your life. So important, really, really helpful. So externalize it. Um, when you're approaching tasks and perfectionism starts to get in the way, talk to it like it's a thing, right? Talk to it, externalize like it's a like it's its own personality. Oh, there's perfectionism. I knew you were coming. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now. Perfectionism. I knew you were coming. Instead of getting upset when you notice yourself trying to be perfect again, when you're trying to let go of it, don't get triggered. Don't get upset. Don't judge it because that's going to attach you to it. When you get really upset, now listen to how this is. See how this feels in your body when I say this. Oh gosh, I'm being perfectionist again. Like I'm supposed to not do that. See how like the energy is like being fed about it? That's like an attachment that comes from judging and getting mad or getting bothered by the perfectionism. But if perfectionism came and you've noticed it and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm being perfectionist. I know. Of course, it's a habit I've had for a really long time. It makes sense. But you know what? Perfectionism, I want to let you go. Just have a seat. I'm doing my thing right now, doing something else right now, or I'm going slow and steady right now. I'm not going to let you influence me and take over this thing. So you see the energy is different. Like you're not attached. You're not feeling overwhelmed by it or anything. I'm just going to check my chat again. Okay. Oh, hello. Your mom and I. So someone's saying, get smarter. My mom and I enjoy watching your show live each Monday. Thank you so much. Get smarter. And that's Eric, right? Hi, Eric. Hi, mom. So what else? Okay. So slow and steady. So go after your goals, slow and steady. Get them done a little bit at a time so you're not overwhelmed at the end. If you have perfectionism inside of you, you know that it makes you want to procrastinate because you're so worried about it and it's so much pressure to have to do something perfect that you delay it and delay it and delay it. And then all of a sudden it's due and you have to do it all at once. And to be perfect, it's overwhelming. It burns you out. It's exhausting. But if you just do a little bit at a time and you don't care about being perfect, things get done. Now I use this because I'm not a perfectionist at all. At all. If you know me, like I get so much stuff done because I make tons of mistakes and I fix my mistakes before someone's even done the first thing. Right. So I do 20 things, tons of mistakes, fix all my mistakes, not all of them, some would slip by, but it's worth it to me because I'm so glad to have all that stuff done. It's out there in the world, right? I'm creating and I'm doing things. If I was a perfectionist, I get maybe one of those things done. But I do this with my house. So I every time I go from one room to another, I bring something. I don't like clean my house till it's perfect. I do a little bit here and a little bit there when I'm seeing something, when I'm walking that way. And in general, my house, people come to my house and said, there's no clutter here. And I think that there's no clutter, not because I'm a perfectionist, but because I'm not a perfectionist. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I just do a little, a little, a little, a little, a little, and I don't care. That's what I mean about like performance is actually better when you're not a perfectionist. It's very interesting. Okay. So next is start before you're ready. So the next tip here is start before you're ready. I'm giving you a lot of tips and this is going on long, but I'm going to try to wrap it up pretty quick. Start before you're ready, because if you hesitate on a task, like, you procrastinate because you're so much pressure to be perfect, you procrastinate. If you hesitate, your mind says, oh no, something's wrong. Let's find a problem. She's hesitating, right? It triggers your sympathetic nervous response. So your adrenaline goes off if you hesitate. Not helpful if you're trying to get something done. Just start it. Don't think, don't overthink. Start before you think. And that's a great tip to getting rid of perfectionism. All right. Next is just stop aiming for perfect, right? Decide intentionally that you're not going to aim for perfect and keep that intention. So when perfectionism slips in, you say, oh yeah, I knew you'd come back. Just have a seat. I'm busy right now. I love that script. I've used that for years. If you're one of my clients, you're probably laughing because you've heard me say that a million times. Or if you watch a lot of my videos, you probably heard me saying that a million times. All right, ready? Okay, I think I mentioned this already, but renegotiate what success looks like. set intentional expectations that you want, that are realistic, that are doable, and go for those, because those you're going to achieve and you're going to feel really good about yourself. Then you could celebrate them, right? Celebrate your wins. Okay, two more here. The last two is get negative thoughts out of your mind. Again, think about perfectionism not as your friend to help you succeed or help you be accepted. See it as a negative thought, because it's really yourself beating yourself up, and you need to be a little bit more kind to yourself. When you have compassion for your humanism, right? That you're non-perfectionist, you're non-perfectionismistic human person. Like, humans make mistakes is what I'm trying to say. Humans make mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes are not the end of the world. There's usually other chances to do stuff. You usually could fix your mistakes and move on. Most mistakes are benign and don't matter, right? They're not the detrimental and all hell breaks loose and lightning coming out of the sky sort of thing. Most mistakes are benign and don't matter too much. So you got to just make them, because you learn a lot from them, and you learn more. If you're trying to be perfect, you don't learn anything, because you're stuck on that one thought of being perfect, right? And last time, plan your downtime. Plan your downtime, because if you don't plan your downtime, you're going to judge yourself, because you'll think, I'm lazy. Because when you hit a wall, when you're so burnt out from being perfect, then you hit a wall and you just can't move. You're immobilized. You don't want to do anything. You're like doom scrolling on social media. And then you hate yourself. You feel so guilty about that, because you feel lazy, or you feel like I had so much stuff to do and I couldn't do anything. But if you planned to have rest, and you planned that you were going to like play in social media, or you're going to watch Netflix or something like that, if you plan it and you say, I'm going to stay in bed till noon tomorrow, then it's productive, because it was a goal. And you actually get to reap the benefits of that downtime. If you don't plan it and you hit a wall and you can't move, you hate yourself and you don't get the benefits of that rest. So that is my best tips to trying to let go of perfectionism this school year. If you're on a school calendar, if you're a parent, if you're a teacher, if you're a student, you need to let go of perfectionism this year, because it'll bring in so much more joy. It'll help you get to know yourself as a joyful and skilled person, which, I don't know, if you have perfectionism, you don't see that right now. And it's not a fun life when you don't see that, when you don't see how great you are. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate you. I'm just going to check. Here we go. Ready?